Hi friends, I'm Celia Beth and welcome to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about ROM hacks and homebrew games. Okay, so my introduction to this whole scene of gaming actually was way back in the day in middle school. In particular, it was the 8th grade. I was in orchestra class reading manga and my friend walked in and was like, "Hey Celia, I have a Pokemon game that you've never played before." And I was like, "Oh really?" Because at this time, I felt like I had been around the Pokeblock. I had played Pokemon Red, Pokemon Gold, Crystal because my older sister had it, and Ruby as well. So I felt pretty seasoned. So when she reached in her bag, pulled out her Game Boy Advance, and showed me a cartridge that was titled Pokemon Chaos Black, I was so intrigued. Because at this time, I'd never heard of homebrews, ROM hacks, or even bootlegs. So if a game was in a cartridge, it had the seal of Nintendo approval. And I remember being so fascinated by it. And never in my 12 to 13 years of life, or even now in my 26 years of life, I had never wanted to mug someone that bad in my life. And honestly, okay, I didn't mug her. And she was kind enough to actually let me borrow the game. And I remember being so fascinated by it because I remember looking at the cover art and thinking, wow, like I wonder what kind of Pokemon this is. Okay, and also time out, guys. So something funny about that, the cover art on that game actually was Chaos from Sonic, and they just taken the art and then pasted it on there, and that's why it looks so good. And at the time, like, it wouldn't be till like a couple years later that I would have gotten really into Sonic, so that's why I didn't know the character, and that's why it looks so good. Okay, well, anyways, back to my story. Okay, so I remember coming home, plugging in my Game Boy SP because I needed to charge it, and then putting in the game and turning it on, and looking at the game, I was so excited. I was like, a brand new story, a great new adventure. Wait, hold on here. Why do the sprites look weird? And like, I remember looking at it and being like, that doesn't look like Game Freak art. But I was in 8th grade at the time, so I was like just discovering the internet. And at this time, like, I learned that there was a bunch of different things that were released in Japan that we just didn't get in America. So I had chalked this up to maybe it was just a non-release game, and maybe it's because it didn't look that great and that's why they didn't bring it here. I honestly, I didn't know. And I remember playing it, and actually in that cartridge, I guess there was a bug or whatever, because to get past a certain point in the game you needed surf, but you couldn't get surf yet, so you're kind of like soft locked out. So I remember playing it and being like kind of bummed out and like admitting defeat, giving back the cartridge, and that was actually the end of me hearing about these type of games for a very long time. And it actually wasn't until high school where it kind of resurfaced again, because a lot of my friends were really into watching a lot of different gaming YouTubers. And I remember Angry Video Game Nerd was playing this game by Pico Interactive. It's like a Bible game. And I remember being like, like, I've never heard of that game before, and being like, well, maybe it was released like in a short amount. SNES was a little bit before my time, so maybe I just didn't see it at Target. So I remember being like, okay, that's interesting. And then just chalking it up to whatever and moving on. And it actually wasn't until college, and my friend and I were talking about Pokemon and like our favorite games, yada, yada, yada. And he was like, have you played Pokemon Ash Gray? And I was like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's a ROM hack. You have to check it out. And this is actually what I want to talk about with you guys today. A bunch of different like homebrew ROM hack games that honestly are amazing. So the first one I actually want to talk about actually is Pokemon Ash Gray. And if you haven't heard about it before, so it's a ROM hack where you play as Ash Ketchum, yay, and you kind of relive the events of the first season of Pokemon, how they played out in the show. And it was really cool because I remember being a kid and playing like Pokemon Yellow or Red, for example, and trying to match up with the show, like, Ash beats, like, Celadon City. So, like, I would beat that too. Like, I would just try to follow through and, like, do what Ash did. But it was very difficult because Ash kept on giving away his Pokemon, and I didn't want to do that. So, but I tried to the best of my ability. So it was cool to play a game where you could actually follow along through his adventure, and like the story, like that with the way they match things up is great. The sprites look great. Like they did such an amazing job. So that was the first game I wanted to talk about. Check it out. It's amazing. Okay, so the next one I actually want to talk about is actually an N64 game, or well, for Nintendo 64. And it's actually called Majora's, it's Majora's Mask, but it's Majora's Mask Master Quest. And so this game in particular, I absolutely love. So my favorite Nintendo 64 game of all time is actually Majora's Mask. Go figure, right? And I remember Ocarina of Time getting a Master Quest, I guess, re-release on GameCube and being like, wow, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I really hope they make a Majora's Mask version of it. And, several years later, nope, they haven't. And I've been always like looking for new Majora's Mask content, whether it's theories or people making different like kind of web comics or anything of the sort. Like I'd watch it, I'd play it, I'd go along for the ride. And when I found out about this, I was like, okay, I have to play it. I hope it's good. And oh man, it met all of my expectations. Like they moved around a lot of different things, like during the side quests, and also the dungeons. And like you had to do them in a different order, and like the side quests also you had to do in a different order. And the thing about Majora's Mask is that I'll replay the game like tons and tons of times, and like I'll do everything in very like I guess meticulous order. Like I just have to get everything done at certain times, and you're like, Celia, everyone does that. I'm like, no, but I take it very seriously. So to be able to play a game that's made in such a way where it feels very nostalgic and familiar, but also at the same time is very new and exciting is amazing. So please check that out. Another game that I want to bring up, also for the Nintendo 64, fun fact, I'm very into the Nintendo 64. It was my first console, so therefore my first love, is a game called Banjo Dreamy. So this game, if you notice by the title, it is a homebrew of Banjo-Kazooie, and oh man, it is so good. And the thing about it though is it's a very short game, and there isn't a ton of things to collect. Like the person only put in notes, but the worlds feel so expansive and feel like so on brand with Banjo-Kazooie. And like the logic in the game, like if you're looking for like one of the last notes or whatever, and you're like, where in Banjo-Kazooie logic would this be hiding? That's where it is. And I absolutely enjoyed that. And what's cool about it also is that the creator of that's actually working on a newer game that is more like, I guess, streamlined kind of collectathon adventure. So I'm so looking forward to that. Okay, and then lastly, another game that I want to mention is actually called Waluigi's Taco Stand. Yes, Waluigi's Taco Stand. And I remember hearing about this game because a bunch of YouTubers were playing it, and I was like, I went through all the videos of every commentator playing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need this for myself. And okay, so I've been a fan of Waluigi for like ever, since I saw him in Mario Tennis, and I'm like, wow, this guy is like a really funny, like grumpy looking Luigi. And then like when we were able to play with him as like on Mario Party games, I was like, okay, he is my official character I use all the time because he's number one. And justice for Waluigi, he deserves to be in Smash. I'm just putting that out there. But anyways, so I'm getting off track. When someone made this game, oh man, I'm so stoked. And okay, so basically the plot of this game is that Waluigi is out of money and he has a lot of debt he needs to repay. So he needs to work for a taco stand and earn money. And it's kind of like you have to like go fetch and go find things, and like you're working the taco stand, and they took a lot of Mario 64 assets for it, but it's so beautifully done and the humor's there, so I definitely recommend it. So those are some games that I absolutely enjoy, and I hope you get to check them out too. So this was my first video, so please let me know down in the comments or whatever if this is something you guys like want to check out and want me to continue talking about different games that I appreciate. If you enjoy this story time format, let me know. And I appreciate all your feedback, and have a great day. Bye-bye!